Mira Business FM, where business comes to talk.
Global markets are reacting this morning in a number of ways, and we'll come to the obvious story in a second. But what we have had is new signals from President Trump on potential tariff cuts on steel and aluminium, or aluminum if you prefer, which is a move that could ripple through construction supply chains worldwide as well and reshape project costs here in the UAE. Now, at the same time, Dubai's real estate sector is pushing ahead with delivery commitments. One developer, Grovy Developers, has confirmed steady construction progress on its Revo project in Dubai land, with main contractor mobilization now underway and enabling works are pretty much, they're nearing completion. So joining us once again, Abhishek Jalan is the CEO of Grovy Developers, looking at global trade shifts, what that means on the ground, how developers are managing supply chains, and what it takes to stay on schedule in the market today. Lots to talk about with you, Abhishek, but it's good to see you again. Thanks.
Thanks, Tim, for having me here.
Thanks for coming back in. I guess we should start with the news this morning because, and we had a quick discussion off air there with the news of the ceasefire, 2 weeks of ceasefire, and hopefully negotiations resolving successfully in that time period. But it just feels like a different day today, doesn't
100%. it? So as I was telling you, I mean, I have a habit of checking news every day. So what this definitely does is that till now there was not much clarity as to what's happening. Was there any, progress happening? But now we can see that definitely there is progress in terms of probably a complete and total peace in the region. And obviously a step from all the three nations coming forward and accepting a ceasefire is a definitely good step. I mean, it will definitely increase the sentiments and bring a more positive, sentiment in the environment.
Well, I think so. And sentiment is such an important thing, isn't it? I think we kind of underplay sentiment, but markets move on sentiment, the way we deal with one another. It's such a bonus to have some positive sentiment back, I think. Look, let's talk about President Trump and the administration. They're moving to overhaul Section 232 tariffs, which affects the landed cost of steel and aluminium worldwide. I know the UAE's construction sector is watching the construction inflation index closely, but can you put into context just how significant these proposed tariff cuts on steel and aluminium are for developers here in the UAE?
So when we look at tariffs for the US, I mean, technically what we're looking at is the import duty.
Yes.
Now the import duty is changed for processed materials on the aluminium, steel and copper to 15%. Instead of the 10% rather, within the 10 and 15% range rather than the 50% and the 25%. I personally don't think there's going to be a major impact on the construction industry because of that, because a lot of material which is being processed, a lot of these processing are happening outside the US. Now, the US would do this to increase their construction speed because a lot of their infrastructure works are going on. A lot of their steel plants are under construction. Because of these tariffs, the local industry of raw materials are benefiting from this. So to increase the construction speed and to lower the cost, the tariffs have been reduced. Now, there is a possibility where we think that, okay, fine, the materials coming from different parts of the world, rather than coming to UAE, it's going to US. But a portion of that, I mean, it's going to be a very slight impact. I don't think there's going to be a very significant impact. And we also have to understand what material gets impacted with this. We look at processed material. I mean, if you're looking at a building in construction, we look at the MEP equipments, which is having, all these processed aluminium and steel.
Yeah.
The raw materials, yes, if you're looking at raw materials, that continues to maintain the tariff. There's no change in the tariff over there. So overall, I don't think there's going to be a major impact in terms of in terms of the construction cost in UAE.
So more trade noise, really, rather than being felt in procurement, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, because these are things very localized to US, the production facilities which are shipping to US, their tariffs will be reduced. Their cost of import will be reduced to US. So, I mean, the cost here doesn't change. yes, if the supply increases because of that, and that's a significant supply increase, demand increase in US, then there is a possibility. But then that's a demand and supply dynamic rather than a tariff dynamic coming in.
Okay. Steel and aluminium make up a significant portion of project budgets, I'm sure. Do these signals, if you like, create an opportunity for UAE developers to maybe lock in better rates? Are we looking at a new baseline of volatility for the next cycle, the 2026-2027 cycle? Which is it?
So if you look at aluminium pricing over the last 1 year, I think the pricing has gone up $1,000 from $2,500 to about $3,500. So that is the market dynamic of how the base metal markets move, and all of these prices are fairly transparent in the markets. I mean, we have London Metal Exchange, which is the main exchange for all these base metals. The question that you raised here is in terms of price locking. I think there should be a standard practice in the market where the contracts and the prices are locked in before we go to market for sales. I mean, that obviously secures the margins. That also secures the contracts, and you see very little price volatility when something like that happens.
Yeah.
So for projects of different size and scale, yes, that is possible. You can always lock in the contracts. You can make sure that the price you're paying is confirmed. You can do advance payments, lock in the material. The factories are, based on advance payments, they're making sure that the material pricing is locked, and that translates towards the cost of the project. So you don't see a lot of volatility when something like that happens.
So a minor effect potentially to reduce construction costs, if any. Are there any other factors that can offset some savings?
Well, I think in UAE, if you're looking at construction, the primary factor, I mean, if you look at different emirates altogether, then we see different pricing, cost of construction in different emirates, and this varies significantly. I mean, in an emirate like Ajman, you would look at 200 dirham per square feet in terms of construction. Here, you would look at 350. Say, and a year back, it was 275, 280. So the cost of construction is changing significantly. And the reason why that is changing is obviously the demand and supply factor, because a lot of projects have started over the last couple of months. There's a lot of demand for the construction material, and also the regulatory changes, because the regulations in all these emirates are different in terms of safety, in terms of sustainability. So these things are more impacting the cost of construction rather than, I would say, a tariff change on US for a certain product or material.
Can I ask you broadly, it's in my head, to what extent do lower construction costs translate to lower property prices for buyers?
See, I feel so for us at Grovy, we consider real estate pricing technically a hedge to inflation. So as and when the construction cost goes up, property prices go up, and the real estate pricing itself goes up.
Yeah.
So inflation hedge, if you're looking at an inflation hedge, you're looking at real estate. So as and when the prices go up from the raw material till the ready asset, you will see an increase in the property prices, and it's directly correlated.
I guess we have to keep in mind, next couple of questions, the situation that we have been in, the situation that we may be moving into, and I suppose as well, the situation that was before February the 28th. So I'm asking you with that in mind, but how are developers currently managing the volatility in material pricing and supply chains? How's that experience?
So, I mean, as a practice, what we do is we make sure that our contracts are locked in before we go to market for sale. So, as I said, that makes sure that our margins are intact. That also reduces the risk on the cost of the product. Because when we lock in our contracts, we have already made the payments, we have already booked the materials, and a large portion of it is already done. There may be a 15% room is there, not for the price change, but the material price locking. And that 15% is not going to have a significant impact on the margins. And as and when the time, I mean, if you're looking at now, as of today, once the shipping cycle, once the logistic channels are open, I feel that going forward another month and a half, we will see some correction in the pricing of raw materials overall. So whatever offset has happened, all of that will start correcting. I mean, OPEC will be taking, obviously OPEC has taken into consideration, they've already increased their oil production. I think last week they have done something on that ground. We've already seen oil price coming down. below 95, and it is already trading at 95, 96. And I feel these financial markets impact much faster on the sentiments on news. So we'll see a much larger correction on these prices coming back to maybe close to February pricing. And once that happens, obviously raw material pricing, everything will start correlating and coming down in that phase itself.
I hope the speed continues to be as breathtaking as it has been overnight, so that we can get back to some kind of normality. I'm just interested, what steps do you take to secure materials early? What's your modus operandi, if you like, to avoid delays?
So when we do the designing of the project, we start the tendering for our long lead items. So these long lead items are essentially items which are going to take 9 months to 12 months. Things like HVAC systems, things like lift, things like pool contractors, all the long lead items which are there in the project.
Right.
When we start working on the pricing for these products, we start locking in the contracts. So we start when I say locking in the contracts, we actually have an agreement between the manufacturer, supplier, installer to make sure that the price is locked in. Now that price is locked in from that day. Now we have to understand the manufacturers, they don't change their price on a daily basis. Most of the manufacturers, and we look at international manufacturers, they're hedging their pricing. So whatever raw material price is there, they're making sure that they are not affected by the change in the international markets on the pricing, and they hedge themselves. So they execute a trade on one of these exchanges, and they make sure that their price is also locked in. So when we start signing contracts with these contractors or manufacturers, they make sure that the project life cycle cost is already locked in from the day one. And construction is something which goes on for at least 2 years on a minimum side, and depending on the size and scale, it can go up to 5 years as well. So we have to divide the procurement cycle in the project at that stage. And when we are able to divide the procurement cycle, we are able to actually finalize a lot of material during the initial phase of the construction.
Let's talk a little bit about your the Revo project. It's a Dubai Land project. Walk me through the current progress, and I know you've reached a milestone, but where are you now?
So the excavation piling works are completed. So the main contractor is mobilized now on site, and what the main contractor will start doing is start working on the substructure,
right,
which is the raft and the ground floor slab. Because we have one basement, so we are assuming about 3 months' time in order to come out to the ground floor. And once we have reached that milestone, that's another significant milestone on the project. The next milestone which will come in is the completion of the superstructure, which will be about 9 to 10 months. And while that happens, then the internal finishing work starts.
How important was it to finalize piling and shoring before this kind of latest round of, well, the global trade shifts, I think is the only phrase, isn't it?
So I think we've been, as a practice, we do that. And I'm very confident now that this is a practice we'll continue going forward, because obviously it eliminates a lot of risk elements. It secures the buyers, it secures the developer, and it makes sure that the project is being delivered. So yes, it has been probably the most important element for us to make sure that, the project pricing is already freezed. And now, even though I'm expecting some correction in the pricing, that's something, a lower price is not going to hurt anyone, but a higher price is what impacts people. So yeah.
Okay. You've just appointed, is it Alishrak, is that right?
Yeah.
Consulting, right, as the main contractor.
Yeah.
When you select a partner, and this is back to the current market kind of situation where we've been recently, is it price or is it most resilient supply chain network?
So we have a very stringent process how we check a contractor. So it's not just the price. Pricing comes later. First, we have to make sure what the product they have delivered in the market. Right. We have to visit. We have to check what sort of quality have they delivered. Obviously, quality is subjective to people who are inspecting as well. So we have a general understanding of how the contractors function. We take references for the contractors from different consultants. We take references from subcontractors. Our mindset is wealth creation. Whenever we are looking at wealth creation, it goes in the ecosystem. It goes for all the related parties, including the contractor, including the consultants. So we make sure that they understand our philosophy of where the project needs to be. And once that is done, then we look at the pricing. Right. Then we look at the resilience of the contractor. We look at the balance sheets, how strong they are. Are they able to execute? If there are any situations like this, are they able to continue with their manpower over the next 3 to 6 months? So that is something which comes in later on.
Abhishek, when it comes to keeping these large scale residential projects on track, how important is contractor mobilization timing?
Well, generally, contractor mobilization takes about a month's time. So where the infrastructure comes to site, the site offices, the rest area for labor, all these setups starts happening within that 1 month period. Contractor mobilization is a very critical stage because that is where the timeline of the project really starts. So as per our contracts, we have timelines in terms of the completion of the project. So the mobilization becomes a key milestone for the contractor to finish the project in that certain time period.
Got you. I knew being the son of a civil engineer would come in handy at some point in my life, but lots of these phrases are kind of, I remember that. I remember my father. It's interesting. You've already fast-tracked procurement of key materials, obviously, for Revo. Is buying early, is it the only way that you protect buyers from the cost increase in construction? It's what, 2.7 or it's around about there, I think, percent. Am I right in saying that?
2.7% of what?
Construction cost increase. That's the forecast for the UAE this year. Is that the right figure? Has that been
Well, see, when we look at indexes for price increase, we have to make sure that what all products are taken into consideration. I'm not aware about the construction cost index. That is not something that we really follow. We look at the market data which is coming in. We stay in touch with the contractors. The primary reason for cost increase right now in the market was before 20th February was the demand. Now the demand has come down. Now the supply is the issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
So now if the supply constraints are resolved, we definitely feel that the price will come in, in a more reasonable place. Because many of these projects are not viable if you look at the cost as of today.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it needs to be viable for all the parties.
I forgot to say at the start of this interview, congratulations. You won a Digital Developer Award.
Yeah,
didn't
thank you.
PropTech Connect 2026. And I need to ask you, how does using construction management software, and we talked about this briefly the first time you were here, use that across the Revo's life cycle, I guess. How does that help you mitigate the invisible costs, the kinds of costs that usually eat into margins?
So any delay on the project life cycle increases the cost of the project.
Yes.
Now, as a developer, it is a developer's intent to make sure that the projects are delivered on time. Now, what these construction management softwares do, and we see a lot of these issues, and we have experienced these issues, what happens is that there's a lot of ambiguity on site as to where the delay is happening. So when we start implementing these softwares, we are able to track by a pinpoint that exactly where the delay is happening. Is it the consultant who's getting the delays? Is it the contractor who's getting the? Is it the subcontractors? Is it the developer themselves, taking time for their approvals? So we are able to identify them. We don't need to wait till the completion of the project to resolve them. On a regular basis, we can continue resolving these issues. On a weekly basis, on a day-to-day basis, we can track this data. We can see where certain approvals are, certain inspections are, material inspections, site inspection, all these things are, and we can take corrective actions accordingly.
Okay. We've got a couple of minutes left. Just a couple more questions. You're offering units just under 700,000. That's kind of the start point, isn't it? I think, is it 690?
I don't think we have any more inventory left because very limited inventory. But yes, we probably started at that stage.
Good problem to have.
Good problem to have.
Exactly. So, I mean, the thing is, you're well positioned, aren't you, for a high growth segment? And I'm interested, what have investors asked you? Is it the steel, the aluminium, and the walls, the things we've been talking about? Is it smart home features? What do investors talk to you about, considering your product?
See, investors essentially look at few things broadly. So I'm going to summarize this because obviously it depends on person to person. They might go into, what the home automation systems are, what the design elements are.
Sure.
Primary elements that go into place is what does the design look like? Because if we are delivering what we are committing on paper, then that is what people are looking for. So they look at the design element. Right. Then they look at the payment plan. Is the payment plan something that they can continue with? And we make sure that they get post-handover payment plans, construction linked post-handover payment plan, because it eliminates the risk for the customer and for the developer as well, and for the contract. So all parties. So the project is in the focus. So when we take the project in focus and we make sure that the payment plans are such, so basically what I mean by construction linked payment plan, once we reach a certain stage of construction, we are collecting payments. So if the construction is not achieved to that stage, we will not be collecting payments. So that brings a lot of security to the customer. So payment plan is very critical, which people look at, and obviously the pricing.
Yeah.
And the fourth thing, which is important after all of this, is what people look at: the past deliveries of the developer. It should be the other way around.
I was going to say that's
Yeah.
probably earlier.
Yeah,
would be better.
but generally people look at that in the end. They're like, okay, fine, now the pricing works, this and that. Now, okay, fine, the developer has delivered in the past. We've seen their performance. We've seen what their products are priced today in the market. So,
All right, final question for you then. Looking at the global trade map, looking at the local construction site, what for you is the one sort of golden rule that you follow to make sure that you deliver? I mean, Revo, for example, to meet, what is it, Q4 2027 delivery, is that right?
Yeah.
What's the golden rule to make sure that you're on time? Because that's, I mean, it's key, isn't it?
well, the golden rule, I would say there are many things, but the most important thing would be the planning side of it. So we have to be realistic in our planning. When we look at planning with our project life cycle as well, there are many a times when we receive the planning diagram, we see that the data is not correct, and it's going to impact the contractor as well. So we have to make it logical for everyone involved. We cannot, we have to work. All the team players have to work together for the completion of the project. And that is something which is very important because, again, coming back to the point where our ideology sits, we sit at real estate, creating wealth for all stakeholders. We have to make sure that the programs are logical. We are not working with contractors with the intent of penalizing them. We are working with the contractors with the intent of completing the project. When that mindset changes, because obviously we are coming from Delhi and we've been in development in Delhi for about 5 decades, we also have our contracting arm in Delhi. So we see how contractors are many times not treated fairly, and that is something which we are bringing into the system with our contractors and trying to make sure that they are treated fairly as well, because they are a big part of the project and they have to be working as a team rather than you have not completed the task, blaming each other, and so that is, I think, something which is very important for us.
Yeah, it's a good thing to hear, I have to say to you. It's good to have you here as well on a day when the sentiment's a little bit more positive.
I'm happy to be here.
There's something in the air. Abhishek Jalan is the CEO of Grovy Developers. Appreciate you coming in. Nice
Thank you,
to see
Tim. Thank you for having me.
This is Mirror Business FM.